So tonight we're happy to welcome Doug Devine here, who, as most of us know, Doug already as a 1/32 collector, along with his father Wayne, who's been around for several years. So between the two of them, if there's anything to be known about 1/32 tractors, I'm sure it's from the Devine family that we'll learn it. So Doug figures he's got enough for 2 sessions, so we'll do 1 session tonight, and then likely late February, early March, we'll follow up with a 2nd session. So at this point, I'm pleased to welcome Doug. Thank you for sharing your information, Doug, and we're looking forward to what you're going to educate us on tonight. So over to Doug.
Okay, thanks for having me. It's been a lot of work, I found out. Hats off to Bruce and Doug, who did the other one, doing all the photos and stuff. You don't realize how long and tedious a project it is, but it was enjoyable. So I've got a whole thing put together here. I've been collecting 32nd exclusively now for about 15 years, and mostly higher detail European based models. When people hear 32nd, they all think 32nd is European, but if you look at our farming skiing here in Southern Ontario, it's very European. So a lot of the brands that you're going to see tonight and we'll talk about tonight are visible in our farm scene and pretty readily available here. I was going to start by just showing the modern stuff, but over the years between me and my dad, we've amassed a fairly good collection of the early 32nd stuff as well. So I'm going to start with kind of an early 32nd thing. We'll start with Britons mostly. They're kind of the founder of 32nd scale. And then we'll proceed into some of the other ones up until about 2000 is where it broke off into kind of 2 segments. So they went either toys, 32nd toys, or 32nd scale models. Scale models were designed more to be shelf abiding replicas, not to be played with, very fragile. So I will share my screen. Hopefully this should come up. Okay, so we'll start off. It's kind of fitting that we did this in 2021. This is the 100th anniversary for Britain's farm. So Britons, as many will know, started out in the toy soldier market, making lead soldiers. But due to a downturn in demand in the early 1900s, they looked to other avenues to produce replicas, and they went to the farm. The first year, they produced a bunch of animals. And if you look in the top left corner, this cart here was the first farm machinery or replica they made of a 2-wheeled cart. It should have had 2 buckboards on it, but this one is missing them. These were all lead and very detailed for the generations, basically back in the 20s. Most of this is pre-war, you see in this page, I believe. Not that I know a ton about the early stuff, but I did some research on it. We had to wait till 1948 till we got our first tractor, which was the E27N from Britons. Very detailed for a tractor of the 40s of this scale. It was made out of lead with rubber tires. But you can see the detail with the clevis hitch, stacks, air cleaners. It was extremely detailed for its era. And they kept this in production for 10 years. And in 1959, they came out with their next casting, which was the new Fordson Major. This had a ton of innovation in it that we see today in the farm toy market still. This was the first one they produced in a Mazic zinc alloy, 2-piece construction. They went to this getting away from lead for a couple of reasons. One was durability. The other one was the safety of lead. Just even back then, they knew it wasn't the safest item to making toys out of. Other additions to it were the steering off the steering wheel. You can see the linkage down here, which turned the front axle. It also had a working 3-point hitch, and this hitch is still used by the mass majority of 32nd makers today. And as you can see it in the raised and lowered. And on the front of the tractor, they did a 3-point mounting system as well for such things as loaders or push blades. You can see here where it caught on the front and underneath. So that was kind of their 2 innovative tractors. And now we'll kind of go through a little bit of their early line of models. So like I said, the Fordson Major was from 1948 to 58. The new Major was from to 59. And this particular picture you see here is the latest version of the final version, the industrial version. That's the only one I had, unfortunately, in our collection, done in the yellow. And both these models were available with steel wheels as well. So you get them in the rubber pneumatic or a steel wheeled version. From there, they originally Ford was their first manufacturer, so they expanded that line. So in 1965, they added the Ford 5000, which you can see here. This one is missing the cab and the stacks. The 6000 was the next one in 76, where they moved the stacks, added the cab and a bigger wheel. And this tractor was remarketed in 1985 without a cab. The TW was the longest running model in their series, starting in 1984 as a 7710. It changed to the TW20 in 81, into the 5610 in 1987 to 95. And I believe it actually went a little further. I don't have the final variation, which had a wider wheel and cab glass in it. The bottom right corner, you can see that 3-point mounting system. This was a loader they made. This was mountable in any of these tractors we're going to see through the presentation. 1987, they brought a kind of innovative model out, which was the Power Farm series. This was a battery operated tractor with a forward and reverse motion, as well as a working PTO on the back of it. And they had implements that would operate off the PTO. That model was throughout the line. They took the electronics out of it and still used it as a static model later in the years. You can see the final version of it here in 1997, where they put the wider flotation tires on it, the cab glass, and the new numbering of the 8730 series. And the last Ford they added was the 1992, the 2120 Ford utility tractor. 1968, they brought their second manufacturer, which was Massey Ferguson. They brought this 135 out with a cab. This is also one of their first tractors that included the man that would proceed through all the models after this. This was in production until 75, and in 76, they produced it without the cab, as you can see on the right. And the next one was in 1976. They brought out the 590. You can see it here on singles. In 81, they upgraded it to duals and some wider front tires on there. And in 1986, they implemented the cabless version with a roll bar. Proceeding on, in 1985, they brought out the 2680 Massey. This came out, as you see here, or with duals. They modified that in 1991 to the 3680, different hood on it. And they proceeded on in 1997 to do it more in the silver Massey traditional colors that we see in that generation, until 2000 with the flotation tires. Last three Masseys they produced were another utility tractor in 1991, the 6180 in 1996, and the 6140 in 1998. This is a picture of their combine they produced in 1978, and actually was the toy of the year of the England Toy Fair, which was quite a big event back then. All the world toy vendors came and visited there, and they got toy of the year with this combine. Very detailed and yet very playable. 1978, they added the Deutz line. Deutz has been in Canada for quite a while now, at least from the 80s. So these tractors, a lot of people say European, but they are around in our countryside. They started with the DX 110, which is very similar to the DX92 up in the left-hand corner. 1984, they did kind of innovative thing that we see regularly now in farm tractors, but back then was pretty innovative, which was duals all the way around on a row crop style tractor. 1990, they brought out the DX650 and the DX457 high visibility hood in 1992. Fiat was added to their line in 1979. The upper left, you'll see the orange color. This was the early color of Fiat, and they progressed to the terracotta orange, or the terracotta brown, or whatever you want to call it, after this. So most of the models were done in that color. In 82, they had two versions, one with a two-wheel drive and two-wheel drive with a half track, which is kind of something different, and as well as a front wheel assist version. 1988, they redid that casting to have an opening hood, a little detailed engine, and for some reason they went back to the orange. I'm not sure why. That wasn't prior color, but they did that. Volvo was in 1980, and then that was shortly thereafter. Volvo was purchased by the Valmet company, and they became Volvo BM, which you'll see down on the bottom here, the 86 version has. And then they went to the Valmet name after that. In the bottom right corner, you'll see the Valmet City version. This was an articulated tractor they built for city type work. MB Track, another tractor that was imported into Ontario back in the day. I can remember seeing them at the plowing match. Two versions they did, the traditional green version, as well as the white and burgundy version with a tipper box. Kind of the interesting thing about this tractor is the rotating driver platform on it. So you can spin this around this tractor to be operated in either direction. And the model represented that. You can see in the top right corner with the farmer turned the other way. Renault was added in 1985. A few of these have made it to Ontario. I'm not sure if they were imported or not, the real ones, but I've seen a few around. 1985, they had the 145 to 45 series. They modified that in 92 to the 155-54. It's the new hood, different steps on it. Again, they brought out a utility tractor in 1995, the 7014, and a mid-range 103-54 in 95. Country, if you look at these, they'll have a lot of characteristics similar to a Ford. That's because Country bought power units off Ford and re-axled most of them to be more equal size to give better traction in the conditions. The one on the left you'll see is a Power Farm version, again, one of the powered ones. The one on the right is just the standard one. This is not a traditional color for these. These normally came in a Ford blue, so they'd look exactly like a Ford, but with Country badging. They also landed Lamborghini and Sam. These are both companies are owned by the Sam company. Purchased Lamborghini. Very similar tractors, basically a common platform, which you hear about a lot about nowadays, and we'll talk a lot more on the newer versions, where they're using the same tractor, which is different sheet metal to market under a different manufacturer. So you can see basically the only difference in these two was the hood. Fendt was added in 1991 with a 615 LSA. Again, a fairly popular tractor in Ontario nowadays, very popular, probably one of the most growing farm manufacturer in Ontario, I would say, with the amount of tractors evolving. They also brought out a flotation version in 1997. Landini 10,000 here. If you look at this, this will look very familiar to a Massey 2600 series. That is because Massey built these for Landini, and they were marketed under the Landini brand, I believe, mostly in Italy. Down the bottom right here, you'll see a JCB Fast Track. This is the first Britain's tractor front axle pivoted. This actually pivoted on the spindles, much more like a real machine did, a little more accurate steering, and it's also the first tractor to implement a front three-point hitch. 1996, the New Holland brand was added to their umbrella. And the early New Hollands did come in two versions, two colorways. Being that's when Fiat merged with them, so they were still done in the terracotta orange for certain areas and the traditional blue that we're used to seeing them in. You can see the different, the M160 is basically the same as the 8560, and the 6635 is the same as the L85, just the color difference, and depending where they were marketed. The vintage farm series Britain's brought to the table in 1996. This was a addition of a high detailed 32nd model. These were done out of white metal, the first few, so they're very fragile, but had very intricate details in them. The first one was to come out was the Ferguson TE20 with Mr. Ferguson riding along here. And at the bottom, you can see the Fordson Major E27 with Henry Ford on board. In 1998, they moved this production to China. And went to a resin cast just to keep the cost down and a little bit more durability to them than the white metal. They brought out a David Brown 900, David Brown on it, and a Field Marshal M in 1999. And the final one in that series was the Lance Bulldog 2000. Britain's as a company was purchased in 1998 by the Ertl Toy Company, now owned by RC2. Most of their production was moved from England in that time to offshores. And that's kind of when there was a lot of these models stayed in production, but they eventually went off to be a similar common platform with Ertl. Other early manufacturers in the 32nd we'll look at is Siku. This is a German company. Very similar details to the Britons. Same three-point hitch that we've seen on the Britons. Very similar steering systems with the steering. Some of the early ones were this Massey 284. Couple different variations with a cab, two-wheel drive, and a front-wheel drive. They also brought some Deutz Fairs out. There was also a Deutz Alice done in these for the North American markets. and the Deutz Egerton, the high visibility hood on it, 1995. So brought out a Ford TW35 in 85. And again, we see some Renault product. 1998, they brought out the 145-14 and the Renault Cirrus 95X in 95. We get to see a few Fendt products. The 308 LS here, one with a loader, one without, and the Fendt Xylon. This is a high visibility tractor, tool carrier style. Another brand in 32nd early was Ross. They are still in production today doing high detail models, which we'll look at in another part. But here we can see some shared platforms between the Massey and the Landini again. As I said, Landini marketed a lot of Masseys in Italy. The 3080 here is just a Massey, but you can see the crawlers and the 1014 and the 1300 are common tractor. They also made some Fiat models. The one on the left would be a European version. The one on the right would be a North American version, as Hessen was how they marketed these in North America. And at the bottom is Iziki, which is a Japanese manufacturer. So Ertl got into the 64th. They may have got in a touch earlier, but I believe one of the first ones was the International. This is a little bit later version of the graphic, but this is the model. The 656 here, as you can tell, not nearly the detail that we've seen from the European manufacturers of the same era, but still it was a 32nd toy that Ertl wanted to bring into North America. The 784 over here, you're getting a little bit closer to what the what we've been seeing in Europe, but still not to the level. And at the bottom was a remote control 6380 2+2 they made as well. Some replicas from Case, the 4890 in the orange color and the 4894 in the black. These were carried over to the Case IH colors in 1985, as well as we can see a Case IH 9150, which would be a Steiger rebanded tractor on the bottom. John Deere, I don't have a ton of pictures of our John Deeres I couldn't find in our storage boxes, but a few of them was the interesting model was the 8690 battery operated, similar to the Britons. This one had a working PTO. They would not coincide. They have different hookups, but same function of having an implement operated off the PTO was kind of an interesting option. And the John Deere 3350 from 91, this did come into line quite a bit earlier. This one has been updated to more of the Britain style. You can't really see it, but it actually has a 3-point hitch, which you'll see in one of the earlier next slides. How they implemented that when they took over Britons. Here we have an Alice Chalmer 8550 articulated from 1981 and the 4W305 from 83. This one was also done in Egco Alice as well. Massey 4900 from 1982 here and a Massey 3080. Again, you can see that 3-point hitch. This has been implemented to be marketed in North America as well as Europe. A few Ford tractors here, the TW20 from 1984, the TW15 from 1989. If you look down below that, you'll see a early version. I believe this was a TW5 on the left, actually, with the traditional Ertl hitch, and they implemented the new hitch on there to work with the European stuff so they could market this in Europe as well. The 8670 from 1994, interesting tractor being that this was a Canadian built tractor. The Ford FW60 off the Steiger platform here from 1981. Talking of Steiger, here we can see the Panther in the traditional green, the industrial version, as well as a Spirit of 76 version. Scale Models also did some 30-second stuff. We can see here some early Steigers from 84, the Panther CP 1400 and the Puma 1000, as well as the Case IH Quad Track from 1997. Versatile, he was the exclusive maker of Versatile toys back then. I remember these being quite popular up in this area. The 1150 here you can see on the top left corner. The bidirectional, similar to the Mercedes-Benz I talked about earlier. This had a revolving platform. If you look at the one up in the top right corner, the platform is turned the other way, and you'll see a front-mounted cultivator and a rear-mounted planter, as well as the 836 on the bottom here. Those were rebadged in Ford in 1989 as Ford marketed the Versatile tractors. They also produce some white models. You can see the 2135 up here, the anniversary edition in 1987, 2135 in 1981, and on the bottom here you'll see the white workhorse 185. This is not only a tractor, but it's a bank. This kind of brings us to our modern version. So the modern details picked up. So this is kind of where I've broken off into more specializing, is into the higher detail stuff. Here's a list of the common manufacturers now. So you see Universal Hobbies, Viking, Margay, Siku, Wise, USK Scale Models, Schuco, Britons, Replicargi, Ross, Ertl, and Diecast Promotions. Throughout not this part of this presentation, second part, we'll see majority of these tonight. We're just going to look at Universal Hobbies. It is the biggest 1/32 maker right now of this high detail. Also marketing the most brands of anyone else. They do almost every brand in the modern day with the exception of John Deere.
Doug, can we just pause for a minute and see if there's any questions?
Sure can.
Okay, anybody have any comments or questions? If so, just hit your space bar to turn on your microphone while you talk. No, I guess not. So carry on, Doug.
Okay. So when Universal launched, I know one of the big things people liked about it was the price. They were extremely high detailed, but a very reasonable price. The problem was they were a lot of European brands, being a European company. They're out of France. A lot of their early stuff, their first models they released were Renault. Got a few examples here. The Ergos 100. It's a communicable tractor. So you'll see the front end loader as well as a hedge trimmer on the back of it. And an early Renault D22. They started to produce some of their bigger tractors. Here we can see the Atlas 926 NZ and the Celtius 456 RZ. These were some early tractors from Renault that had a short livelihood, as Renault was purchased in 2003 by the Claus Machinery Co. And they were rebadged in this green, white, and red livery that we're traditional seeing Claus tractors for. Unfortunately, these tractors still did not come into North American markets. The reason being is that Renault had an agreement with John Deere that John Deere would supply engines, with the rule that they would not import these into North America. That has changed recently, and we'll talk about that later in this. But so these are some early ones. A few of these have got up in Ontario by private, or Quebec. They were quite popular as well. Private importers have brought them in. It's the Arions tractor here, 657. You can see a dual-wheeled version with front weight. You can also see one with the front loader. Talking about the detail Universal Hobby, you can see all the hydraulic lines, and the detail is outstanding. Something a little different, some orchard tractors here, some Nectus 257F, which is an open station, and the 237 VE, which is more of a narrow cabbed version. The Arion 430 at the top here. This tractor, unfortunately, was only produced with a loader. Interesting thing about it, and I should have took a picture of, but all the doors and windows opened on this model, so it gives a little extra detail. On the bottom, you can see the Arion 540 and 530, one with a loader, one without. The Arion 640 here. Another popular thing you'll see in Europe is, and in the Europe 32nd market, is special paint jobs. For special events. This Claus Arion 640 is built for a dealer in somewhere in England. Rick Berry's the dealer's name. They run a show each year, and they paint a tractor up for the show, and they make a scale model of it each year. So this year it was done in a sharp black and silver livery. This tractor is still running. Seeing videos of it in the UK somewhere in this paint job. The Claus Xerion, so a few of these were imported into North America, the early Clauses. The reason they were allowed to be because they were cap powered, so they did not infringe on the John Deere agreement. This tractor, the cab rotates, so it can be run in both directions. You see the one on the right that the cab rotated. The bottom, you'll see the Bulmer edition. This is a UK contractor who has bought so many of these Xerions from Claus, they actually paint them in his own colors for him, so they built a scale model of it. Not a tractor, but an interesting model is the Claus Cougar 1400. This is a high-speed mower, very wide width, extreme detail, and you can see it in the folded out up in the top left in the travel position. The cab spins around, folds up for field transport. McCormick was added in the early 2000s, as McCormick, if you didn't know, is a lot of these tractors will share resemblance to Case IH tractors. That is due to the merger between Case IH and New Holland. Case IH had to sell off some of their inventory and products, so they actually sold the factory that they built these tractors in to Argonne, who is the owner of Landini, and they were produced in the traditional plants under the McCormick color. So you'll see some of these tractors later in the presentations in the Case IH looks. They are basically the same tractor, just produced by different manufacturers. Here you can see the McCormick MC130. That was another tractor that was carried over from the Case IH line. The McCormick X470, this is a moderner version. This would be one of the built in Italy. The MTX 175, that is the same as an MX Series Maxim, but done in different paint. Down in the right corner, you'll see the McCormick MTX 150 Diamond Edition. This was to commemorate 60 years of production at the Doncaster plant in England. There were 60 of these real tractors produced. You can see another MTX 155, the duals all the way around here. The McCormick ZTX 280, this was the biggest tractor they produced in the England plant before they moved production to the plant in Italy. This is a modern flagship machine for McCormick here. This is the X8 660, 300 horsepower tractor, built in Italy. You'll see a yellow version down in the other corner. This is their steepless transmission, the XT Drive. To promote it, they painted these tractors yellow so they would show up at farm shows and events, and to promote their new transmission. A couple more liveries we see here. One is the Red Power. This is a new option McCormick is offering, I believe, on most models now, in this dark red metallic color. And the X660 on the bottom here is across Africa. They actually drove one of these machines across Africa to promote it, and they built a replica with all the flags and the markings on it ahead. Landini, who is the other division of McCormick, were imported into Canada up until about 2 years ago. Now they are strictly went to the McCormick brand, and they're basically exact same tractors, a common platform, just done in different paint jobs. I think due to marketing reasons, they just went with the McCormick in North America. Next brand we're going to look at is Deutz. Here's some early Deutz models that they came out with. The D6005. Couple different variations here. You got a two-wheel drive version at the top. You've got a front wheel assist version with a cloth cab at the bottom, and a front loader version on a front wheel assist one. This was actually the first model they built in the Universal Hobbies, brought out the Deutz, the TTV 1160 here. A couple variations here. You'll see one with the front weights and the fender extenders, and the other one you got a front 3-point without the extenders. The K120 Agritron, this was a tractor brought in here. This is what they'd call a common platform tractor. So this tractor was marketed under different brands with different sheet metal, slight variations. Here we can see the Deutz versions with a loader and without. Couple special liveries that were made. The B100, this was a biofuel tractor, so they put the sunflowers in it. This was done, I believe, for the Agritechnica show. The real one, and a dark metallic black version. Here's the other common platforms that were built off it. The Sam Iron 100, done in orange, the Hurleman XM 100, and the Lamborghini RS 100. Here we have the Agritron 135 Mark IIIs. This was a fairly fun, there's a few of these around Ontario for sure, the real ones. On the right, you'll see a special livery they had done. I'm not sure why it was done. I've seen pictures of the real one, so I know it exists. I'm not sure exactly why the reason of the silver paint, but it was a striking model, so I picked it up. The DX series, the 451 at the top and the 457 at the bottom with the low visibility hood. So it's got the slanted hood, a lot better visibility. And on the bottom left, you'll see these 100,000th Deutz built. And they did it in that silver paint scheme. This tractor still exists today. It's owned by Deutz. They bring it to quite a few farm shows in Europe. The Ertl TTD 430, just a small horsepower tractor from Deutz. They made a black version. I've seen a picture of the real one. So I bought it. Most of my models I have in my collection, there has to be a real tractor for me to buy a model of it. Here again, a common platform, the TTV 5130 and the Sam Verdius 120. Here we have the Hurleman version of it and the X120. That's their new colors they've came out with, more of their traditional colors they've had, and the Lamborghini Nitro 130 VRT. The 7250 Deutz here, you can see on the left, you can see the traditional color. Deutz has given the option to order these in what they call the Warrior package, which gives you this black finish with some chrome highlights. I've seen quite a few of these around. They are quite popular. People in this area, there are at least 5 or 6 I've seen. The updated version of this tractor with the new hood. The reason you're going to see a lot of upgrades lately in the farm market is due to the emission standards. So you're seeing a lot of redone hoods, redone exhaust on the models, and the model manufacturers are following suit. Here we can see the 7250 in traditional green, the Warrior version, and again, a common platform tracker with Lamborghini Mach 250. Terion is a Russian tractor. These are very similar. I believe it's a break-off company of Belarus. Not many of these, I believe, are imported in North America, but interesting tractor to say the least. Ford brought a lot of models out. This is one of their most popular ones, was the 7810, and it was done as well, and it should say Silver Jubilee here. This was to commemorate 25 years at the Balsdean plant in England that they built the Ford tractors. Here we can see a 6810, a smaller frame Ford tractor. And we roll into New Holland here. The T475, this is a common platform with the Case International we'll see later on. Again, a lot of these manufacturers are taking advantage of marketing tractors under 2 brands to save cost and to implement. Here is the T5. This is the early generation T5 here with a loader and without. Here is the updated version of the T5. You'll see the new hood, a lot more venting. Again, due to emission standards, they have to get a little more venting in the hoods of these. As well on the right here, you'll see a T Holland 5120 Terracotta, 100 years of Fiat. So, and there was commemorating 100 years of Fiat being in the agriculture business. They made 100 of these real tractors in this metallic terracotta color. And at the bottom was a concept tractor that they showed at the SEMA show in Italy of what a Fiat would probably look like today. And they made them all of it, built on a T5 platform. A couple new models that just were released. The T5 140 Profondo Blue for 50 years of New Holland in Japan. 50 of these real tractors were produced with the dark blue and the gold grills. And one of the gold ones on the right was produced. My understanding is that of the 50 people that purchase one of these blue tractors, one of them is going to get drawn and get the gold one. T6 here from New Holland, the 740. This would be the short wheelbase T6s. You'll see down here the Golden Jubilee. This was for 50 years of production at the Balsdean plant. And the T6090 on row crop tires. The T6 175 here. Now this is a longer wheelbase New Holland T6. And on the bottom you see the 6175 with a loader. T6 175, another option New Holland offers on almost, I believe, all their tractors from the T6 up to the T8 is the blue power option. That is this Maserati blue with silver wheels and silver grills. You can see the T6 here on the left with that, as well as a loader version of it. And at the bottom, another one of the 100th anniversary tractors they produced for Fiat in the T6 175. And again, here is the T6 version of the 50 years of Japan. Same concept as the other ones, the T5s. They did the T6s as well. The T7 210. So this was the early generation T7 in the standard blue in the top left. The power blue in the bottom here. In the tops was a Union Jack version. This tractor is made in the UK, and a few of them were badged like this to This is the new T7 with a new hood, upgraded venting, again in the standard blue and the blue power. This here was a US spec version. So they took that same tractor, implemented row crop duals on it, wheel markers to more replicate what we'd see in North America as far as markings, entire configuration. And again, another one of the 100th anniversary terracotta done in the metallic in the T7. Country, we talked about earlier. This is some of their earlier tractors, the 1174. The first one you'll see here is the blue standard color. And this is what most countries were painted in. Down in the left here was celebrating their 50th anniversary at the Smithfield show in England, which is a huge farm show that used to take place in England. They painted this one up gold as an attention getter on their booth. After the farm show, the tractor was repainted to a different color. Takes us to Case IH, New Holland sister company. You'll see the Case IH Farmall 75C here. This is the same as the T4 we looked at from New Holland, just in the Case IH colors and the Case IH hood on it, and the Case IH Farmall 80. The 115U, again, a common platform in New Holland to the T5. Here we see some Maxim tractors from Case IH, the early version, the 5140. So this was basically the second true Case IH tractor after the Magnum was produced. And below, you'll see the newer version of the Maxim MX150 and a black version of the 135. Here we have the 145 Case IH. You'll see the standard color on the right. Over on the left, Case IH won Tractor of the Year that year. So they implemented one in a dark metallic red and as well as a black version. Again, they use that same color to commemorate Case International's 175th anniversary. You'll see here in a black version. I don't have the standard version, unfortunately. The Puma CVX 230, the top left is the early version. On the top right, you'll see the North American version, again with the row crop wheels, the wheel markers. And this also has the upgraded cab roof on it. And underneath, you'll see the Platinum Edition. This paint job was done for Agritechnica. If you don't know much about Agritechnica, that is the world's largest farm show. It takes place every other year in Hanover, Germany, and a lot of special tractors and reel are produced and models to coincide with them. Here is their Case IH 600 quad track. This is probably one of the most detailed models I've seen UH produce. It's an absolutely amazing looking model here. They made two versions of this. I haven't got the second version yet, which is the 620, the newer version with the updated exhaust, and it was also done in the anniversary black paint scheme. Steyr is another company owned by C&H. Case IH purchased Steyr, and I believe in 1996. And again, using a lot of common platforms from them still to this day. The 9105, I don't believe is. I believe that is a true Steyr tractor, but the 4120 is a common platform with the Case IH 115 and the New Holland T5. Kubota was brought into their line a few years back. The top left is the very first Kubota tractor produced in 1962, T15. On the other side, we have a Kubota M108S. So I have the Kubota M5 111 and the M9960. Both of these tractors were available with loaders if you wanted to get them that way. You can see the 960 up here with the loader in the top left and the M135GX in the top right here. Again, this was available with a loader as well. The M171, this used to be Kubota's flagship tractor. This was their first tractor into a full open field type machine. On the top left, you'll see the M171 Euro spec with a front weight, a front 3-point. As much as we say it's a Euro spec, a lot of the ones I've seen around here are spec this exact way. On the right here, you see more of a traditional North American setup with the row crop duals in the rear and just a standard front weight bar on it. And on the bottom, you'll see the North American version with a loader. AGCO tractors. This is another common platform tractor for the AGCO brand. This tractor was marketed under 4 different brands. Here we're looking at the AGCO version. This was basically the exact same as the Massey version other than the color. and it was only produced for about 2 years before they did away with the AGCO brand. The one on the right is the Legacy Edition. It's hard to see it on there, but it said Legacy Edition. This was the last year they produced them, and it gave you some special warranty features and stuff like that, and kind of just recognition of the traditional Alice orange. Fendt, another AGCO company, a couple of their early tractors, the Fendt Farmer 2 here. You can see it standard or with a loader and a cloth cab. Smaller ones we're looking at here, the Fendt 209 Orchard tractor and the Vario 313. 415 Fendt, you'll see the traditional color on the left, and a Fendt does have the option on most tractors to be ordered in 3 other colors usually, one being the black you see here. They've also done tractors in a dark blue, dark burgundy, white as well. A 415 on the bottom with a front loader and a bale grapple. The Fendt 516s here. See the traditional Fendt green on the top here, a white version on the right, and a loader version on the back. And if you look at the loader version and the traditional version, you will notice the green is different. It is not the picture of the angle. Fendt actually changed their green as of 2016. I'll go over that in an earlier next couple slides here. We'll see a better example. The Fendt 716 Gen 1 on the top left here, Gen 2 on the bottom. The differences basically were the hood were slightly different. You'll see the grill works different. Wasn't a huge different wheels on them. Wasn't a huge variance, but they did make a variance. The third generation, we got some different fuel tanks down here, different stack, different hood again, and a different front weight. And again, we can see a Black Beauty version here of that. The 7 Series, the modern 7 Series here. The bottom picture, you can see what I talked about, the 2 greens. I did some research on this, so I was kind of curious on this. Their explanation for changing greens was that their tractors had evolved and they wanted the green paint to evolve with it. So they came out with a darker, greener, more lustrous color. That you can see down here, that's been on all their tractors now since 2016. And you can see the loader version is in the new Nature Green and the non-loader versions in the traditional Fendt green. Here you can see the design line Fendt. It's done in the Nature Green, but the design line gives you the chrome grills, chrome stack, just gives them a little dressed up feature. This one also featured row crop duals. Down on the right here is one of the only gold tractors you'll see in my collection, and that is due to the fact the real tractor was actually produced like this. They produced this tractor for 50 years of Fendt in Belgium, and it was actually auctioned off after the was done, celebrated. So some farmer has that nowadays in Belgium. The 8 Series Fendt, we can see here a couple different wheel variations, the 818 and the 820. Brings us to Ferguson, a couple different versions of the early Ferguson. We can see the TE20 at the top, the Ferguson FE35 gold belly in the bottom, and the TO35 in the bottom right. Massey 1080 front wheel assist and a Massey 590 front wheel assist. The Massey Ferguson 4.4 Extra. This is a worldwide tractor, so this tractor would be not only produced, so one of the tractors Massey produces in several plants and is run worldwide, such as in Brazil, different areas of the world. So they call it worldwide tractors, producing more plants. And the 690 here on the bottom. $398 on the top, and the plant in England. More tire. These tractors are reproduced this year again with a much wider tire and look a little bit more traditional, as well as front fenders. And they did the 3120 Datatronic and the 3095 Autotronic. 5610. The 5713 SL with a loader, as well as a 5713S in the new graphics. Here we have a 6170, 6180, similar tractor, different wheel packages. The 5480 in the 6290. Uh, 6475, again, they've given us a North American spec here with the row crop duals and wheel markers on it. The 7499 Massey up on the top left, the iconic Massey 2680 up on the top right, and the 8220 on the bottom here. This is the Massey Modern 7 Series platform, the 7624 and the 7626 with duals all the way around. A couple special liveries that were available to celebrate Tractor of the Year they won in 2012. They did one in this gold, and they did a red chrome version for the SEMA show. I've seen pictures of this real tractor. It's striking. 76 series converted to the 77 series. There wasn't a huge amount of difference in these tractors. Visible in the picture, the difference was the front axle a little bit, but it primarily was just a number change. The S series you'll see down in the bottom left here, they upgraded the headlights to the new style headlights and the new style graphics, as well as the new style GPS receiver on the roof. A couple special paint jobs in that tractor were the Blue Blanc Rouge version, done for the SEMA show. This tractor's built in France, so they thought they would do one up in the France flag. In the next version, which complemented the next tractor we're going to take a look at in the black, this is a concept tractor that was produced for the 2019 Agritechnica show. It's quite striking. It was done in this white. The reason for the white paint job was to commemorate 50 years of Neil Armstrong landing on the Earth, or on the moon, sorry. And they thought it would be cool to kind of give people a sneak peek of what their future tractors were going to look like. And this is what they came up with. So it's got the white. It's very, if you're ever interested, check it out on YouTube. Some of the videos of the interior and stuff. This is quite an interesting machine. But the biggest thing Massey really wanted to do here was give you a sneak peek of what their new tractors would look like in the very near future. That near future was this summer when they, for the first time, did a worldwide launch of a tractor, which was the Massey 8S. This is Massey's new tractor we'll see this year, supposedly in North America. They went back to a lot of retro styling on this tractor. You'll notice the fenders are done to the same series as the 3000, as well as they went back to the traditional silver cab and silver striped hood. I must admit, these are not my pictures in this one. I've got one of these on order, but I haven't got it yet. But I wanted to get in the presentation, so I stole some off the internet, off of Universal Hobbies website. But it's a rather striking looking tractor. I'm excited to see one in real. The 8000 series from John Deere, Massey Ferguson was launched in 2009. This was kind of a revolutionary tractor for Massey. Again, this was shared on 4 different platforms. So we've seen the AGCO platform already. This is the Massey platform. The first one was a Euro spec with the front 3-point hitch, metric style tires. Down the bottom right here, you'll see a row crop version with the wheel markers and a front weight, more of a North American spec. A couple more wheel variations of this, the 8690 dualed all the way around, as well as an 8680 with Trelleborg tires. That tractor was updated a few years later with a new stack and fuel tanks, which you'll see represented here. The Euro spec version, the North American version down on the bottom left, and the American flag version. This was to commemorate most of these tractors up until 2011, I believe, were produced in Bavaria, France. They started producing these in Jackson, Minnesota as well. So they commemorated one with the American flag paint job. The next generation of that was the 87 series, which you see here. Updated in hoods with the venting. Was the biggest difference noticeable. Different on the US spec this time. They went with a front 3-point with a weight instead of the traditional bar mounted weights. Down at the bottom, you will see a 8-wheel version. Massey Ferguson 8737 in black. This was the 70th anniversary of the TE20. They had a parade in Coventry where these were produced. And they had the TE20 lead the parade and the black Massey follow up on the parade. The reason for doing it in the black was the original prototype of the TE20 was black. So that's why they did it in this color. They made a model to replicate it. And down here, you'll see the 8740, which was when the tractor, the last horsepower number it reached in the traditional 87 series as a 400 horsepower tractor over a 370 horsepower tractor. Here you see the new version, the 8740S. You'll see Tier 4 final. That goes to the emission standards that this tractor is limited to. The S series, again, had the new headlights and the new striping. The one on the right here is a Tier 5 version. I do not believe these have entered Tier 5 emissions in North America, so we haven't seen these here. The difference is, again, the fuel tanks on the side, and you notice that stack is actually narrowed up again to give a better visibility, and it's moved down lower. Again, the common platform, the Challenger brand. You see the 55E here. This is the 7 Series Massey equivalent. And the 685 Series Challenger on the bottom here is of the 8 Series Massey. Challenger, the 685 Series were only in production a year in Europe before they pulled Challenger out of Europe and made it a North America only brand. So next few versions were all North American. You'll see the original 685C with the small stack. You see the D series with the large stack, and the E series with the new hood and new cab roof with better lighting. Valmet Valtra. Valmet, you'll see on the left is the original. Valmet changed their name to Valtra due to conflicting with other manufacturers and so they eventually went to Valtra. You see the one in them was a Valtra Valmet in the center here. And the traditional Valtra A750 on the right. C-Series Valtra. Neat thing about Valtra is tractors are offered in about 8 different colors. So it makes it, and most of them are metallic finishes. So you see a silver, a blue, and a red with the loader here. A green version, a cow version. The cow version was done hanging this tractor at the dairy market. They thought they would paint one up like a cow at some of the farm shows just to highlight it. The N Series Valtra, you can see here, this is the smaller N Series, the 103s. They're in a metallic blue and a red. The Valtra N11, 111, sorry. Again, a little larger than the other one. And you'll see the N121 Communical. Communical being that this tractor is designed for road type work. Oh, it has the high speed tires on it. The N142 series from Valtra. This is the largest version of the N series. You'll see the red one on the left here, a black one, and again, the cow version that they did up for some farm shows. Brings us to the T series. UH did 4 versions of this. This is the first version. Several colors were offered again. You'll see an orange one and a black one here. A green, a red, and a silver. The second series that had a basically only real difference was the cab was different. The markers were different on the cab. You see a blue, metallic black, and metallic orange version. The third version got a whole new cab altogether, as well as a lot more venting on the hood here you can see, as well as the air intake on the left side. Again, you can see these are done in sharp metallic colors, such as the green, the red, and the brown. A few other color options were the metallic white, the metallic blue. Brings us to our final version of the T, which is the T163. Big difference here was we've got a 3-point hitch now, and we've also went with a new headlight style. Again, you can see the metallic colors. More color options, the blue and the silver. The Valtra S series. This is the common platform to the 8 series from Massey, the Egco, and the Challenger. The early version up top was, I believe, only done in the red color. They didn't give you a lot of color options in the S series. They did do a black version as well. You can see this went to the new emissions with the bigger stack, bigger fuel tanks, wheel options, dual wheels, and a teleboard version. This is the updated version of them with the new hood in the black and the white with duals. The S394 Finland version, this was from Agritechnica. They wanted to kind of promote, they were a Finnish company, so they put the blue stripe to represent Finland on them. And the bottom one here is the latest Tier 5 version, which stack we talked about. It's lowered down into the tractor, less blocking visibility with the lower stack. Different brand. Yanmar's is a Japanese brand, definitely imported into Ontario. And the Ursus, this tractor will resemble a Zetter tractor. They were basically marketed off a Zetter tractor, and a lot of shared parts between Ursus. They were produced in Poland, as the Zetters are produced in Czechoslovakia. They made a trade that the Polish would give them raw materials, and they would sell them parts to produce the Ursus tractors. That same tractor was produced in the Zetter brand. You'll see the Crystal 12045 on the left. It's the museum edition. This tractor done in this color is in their museum. And the Zetter Crystal 8045, this is more what the traditional ones looked like around here. A newer version of the 8045 in the new color with the black and the red. And then we got a Zetter Proxima, a much more modern tractor, smaller tractor. The Fortia 12441 on the top left, and the Zetter Crystal 160 on the bottom. And that brings me to the end here. So here's my resources. Some great, if you're interested in Britain's farm models, definitely try to get this book. It's 1948 to 1998, covers the full Britain's line. Got some info from Joe's couple books, and a great venue if you're looking for 30-second models or history on older models. I don't know if anyone's been to this farm model database. Amazing website as far as what's there. A lot of 16th, 32nd, 64th, it's all on there. It's a great resource. And that brings me to the end there.
Wow, that was quite a review of not only 164 or 132nd toys, but also your collection, Doug. That must be quite impressive to see in real life.
Unfortunately, most of it's boxed right now, so it's not a ton of it out, but I would love to one day get it all on display.
Yeah, wow, I can't imagine how much time and effort it must have taken you to get those out of the boxes and photographed and made into the PowerPoint. That's just an absolutely wonderful presentation.
No
Thank
problem.
you so
like
much.
I said, it was long, but it was fun. I enjoyed doing it for sure.
Well, that's good. So I'm sure we may have some questions or comments. So if anybody wants to hit their space bar and toggle on their microphone, now's the time.
Doug, great job. Lots of information. I learned a lot. Thank you. I got a question. Early in your presentation, you had a picture of a Britain's Deutz tractor with orange wheels on it.
Yep.
Was that a special show tractor or anything? Or do you know? I'm not aware of any real ones with orange wheels. So I was kind of intrigued that it had orange wheels.
I don't know. I believe they're all the ones with the 8 wheels had the orange wheels on them I've seen. So
Okay.
I'm not sure if it was an aftermarket wheel company, possibly.
Yeah.
In Europe. That's the only thing I can come up with why they were orange.
Okay. The other thing, the relationship between Massey and Landini. You may be right. Maybe Massey built tractors for Landini, but I've thought for a long time that perhaps Landini was actually building those tractors for Massey. So I'm not sure.
I'm not totally sure on that, but I believe it might have even been a joint effort. I believe some were produced for Massey for Landini, and Landini produced some for Massey.
Yeah, more than likely, because I know it's a long relationship. They've done it for years. Yeah, great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great presentation there, Doug. There's lots of models out from Universal Hobbies and Viking and Shinoko and that. I just kind of wish you would do more John Deere ones like that, or get into Alice Chalmers and get into the combines like Gleaner and that.
They may give them time. You never know. I haven't. The next part, we'll go over some of those other brands you talked about. We'll go over Viking, Shuko. Shuko is doing quite a bit of Deere. And I've heard rumors that Viking's bringing out a new 8R. And I seen today that Siku launched a new 8R. It's not really that great, but if Siku's launched it, there's a really good chance that we're going to see it from Viking.
I imagine we'll see it from Viking, and it'll be nice. And I got my fingers crossed, and I got a sneaky suspicion we're going to see the X9 combine from Viking or one of the companies over there, maybe for Agritechnia, because it's a big combine launch for John Deere, and they haven't done a John Deere combine yet by Viking, but they have done claws. So I'm got my fingers crossed, and I got a sneaky suspicion we might see one, but we're not 100% sure yet. But I'm got my fingers crossed for one. But in the meantime, you got a great presentation. There's a lot of information in there that I didn't know about Universal Hobbies. They got some very impressive.
Doug, was New Holland connected with Ford, or was they connected with Case? There, you mentioned about them connected with Case. I always thought of growing up as Ford and New Holland were always together.
They were
at
connected.
dealerships.
So New Holland purchased Ford tractor.
Okay.
And then what happened is Fiat purchased it, and Fiat went on to purchase Case IH as well.
Okay.
So that's the connection between the three.
Sure.
Well, any other questions?
Yeah, just what kind of implements are they making to go along with the tractors, or are they just mostly making tractors?
They're making a lot of implements. I thought about doing an implement one. That might be a whole nother project. But Universal Hobbies does, I would take a guess, they've got at least 200 different implements out. Britain's as well. I would love to see, I know in my collection alone, we've probably got about 50 different Britain's implements, and they were some really interesting implements. That might be, again, something I do in the future. But there's definitely implements being made. Some other brands are doing a lot more implement brands, such as Ross. You'll see them do a lot of implements now. Replicardi will do some implements. So some of the companies that I'll cover in the next features will do implements. Unfortunately, I might throw a few in there just that catch your eye. But there's definitely a lot of implements being produced.
And where do you buy your Universal Hobbies from, or most of your 132nd from? Where are you getting it from?
So originally when I got into Universal Hobbies, I was pretty lucky that Eurocan Diecast was in business. Our good friend Josh, I bought a ton of product from him. Since his passing, it's been harder to get. I do buy a little bit through Jolly's, but 90% of my purchases now are offshore. So dealing with a couple places. I deal with a great guy in the Netherlands, Tractor Connection. He's phenomenal. I also do a couple places in the Netherlands that are really good to deal with. And this week alone, I did a purchase out of England for a couple models. So it's a lot of internet buying just due to the fact there's not a lot around in North America.
What's the shipping like from shipping it overseas to Canada? Are the rates too good, or what's the wait time like on that?
Normally, right now it's probably delayed. Although my last one I got within 2.5 weeks still, and that was just before December I got that one. I haven't ordered anything lately. Shipping is a little expensive. The nice thing, if you deal with Tractor Connection, you can usually ship 3 models for about 24 euros, which is about $40, I think.
That's pretty
it's
good.
usually here in 2 to 3 weeks.
What would be your most favorite model of the ones in the presentation you did tonight?
And my favorite, probably that 600 quad track. That's probably my favorite models are mostly Margay, which I haven't got to yet. That's kind of my favorite 30-second stuff that's out there. And the new Vulture, or that new Massey S, I'm really excited to get that tractor because it looks awesome, the pictures I've seen. So hopefully in a couple of weeks I should see that, but I'm patiently waiting for the dealers. The good thing about Massey is you can get them through Canadian dealers. You just got to be patient because they have them shipped from England or Europe to here. So
Doug, that tractor you showed that was the lunar model, the tires were white. Are they actually white tires, or have they got a covering on them?
I'm not sure how they did that. I believe they might be just a finished tire. I've only seen pictures of the real tractor in a stationary position. It's usually not driving around, so I'm not sure how they've done it. I know the virtual launch is kind of neat. If you want to see something interesting, you just Google Massey 8S and go to the launch that they did, the virtual launch. It's still available to watch. It shows that tractor being launched off the moon towards Earth, and as it's coming through the air, it changes to the red and silver. It's kind of neat. And I know they also launched a 5S, I think, last week. and where they did the shooting of it, you can see the lunar tractor is in the background.
Oh, just an interesting bit of trivia on the moon landing. Neil Armstrong was not originally planned to be the astronaut that went onto the moon. The other astronaut, Aldrin, was actually the man assigned to do that. But when they landed and it was time to go, he hesitated. And so Neil Armstrong was the second man as backup. And so he got to go because Aldrin hesitated to go. And there's actually a leadership lesson on that about he who hesitates is lost sort of thing. I thought that was interesting trivia.
Interesting.
Well, thank you so much. Anybody else have any concluding comments or remarks?
Yeah, what's your holy grail piece you're looking for?
Right now there's 2 Steyr tractors that were released. In Netherlands, there's a club, the LCN club it's called. And every 2 years they make a special model. It's only available to club members. And this year it was 2 Steyr tractors, and I seen them and I want them bad. So I don't know how we're gonna get those ones. That one's, I seen a couple on eBay, but they were north of $800. So I don't know. Something to work on. Got to make a trip to Europe, I guess, but that's a ways out.
Yeah, I've actually been to that show. It's a really good show, and there are a bunch of good guys over there.
Yeah, I'd love to go. That's on my bucket list. That and Agritech are 2 events I want to attend for sure.
Speaking of going to Europe, in the future when we can travel again, if anyone goes to Europe, make sure you leave empty space in your suitcases that you take to Europe so you can buy these toys and bring them back. A lot of these toys are maybe a little bit more difficult for us to round up in North America. However, in Europe, I know the Siku toys, even some of the Viking and the Shuko and those toys, all the farm equipment dealers sell them. You can even buy a lot of those toys sometimes in grocery stores. We were amazed when we've been to Europe about 3 times over the past number of years. It's not super hard to find some of these really nice models. Again, congratulations, Doug. You done a great job there. That was very, very interesting. By the way, if you're not aware of it, I got to put a good word in for Doug. We've kind of watched Doug grow up from a youngster, and he's always had a real fascinating interest in toys and tractors, and he's a good parts man. He sold a lot of parts for us at an awful lot of toy shows for a lot of years. So it's nice to see you doing well, Doug, and you're really involved in the hobby.
Yeah, I would concur with that. I would echo everything Doug says. He's helped us as well, and especially been a resource for us for the Ontario Toy Show and helped out there along with his dad, Wayne. So yeah, hats off to both of them. And thank you again, Doug. My goodness, I can't imagine the time and effort it took. And you can be very proud of not only your presentation, but proud of your collection, what all you have. It's just absolutely great. And as I mentioned earlier, Doug is planning to do a part 2 of this presentation, likely late February, first part of March. And I'll just remind everybody that 2 weeks from tonight, Dwight Block is scheduled to show us how he does some of the scratch building of his tillage equipment, his plows and cultivators and rippers and stuff. So we'll look forward to that. And we'll also look forward to welcoming Doug Devine back. And we shall wish everybody a Happy New Year and call it a night. Okay, so take care, everybody. Good to see you.
Take care.
Good night.
Sure.
Night. See you later.
Good night.
Good night.
New Year.